What's going YouTube? Welcome back. In today's video we are going to be watching What If I Was Reincarnated as a Hyuga in Naruto, and with that let's get right into the video. Chapter 1 Hyuga You, that name, its meaning is ill omened. Of your two teammates, one was forced into retirement due to severe injuries, and the other was killed in action during the Chunin exams. You are the only one left. Furthermore, you must be aware that with your natural talent, you are not suited to continue down the path of a shinobi. The sun was sinking below the horizon. A draft snaking in from the courtyard lifted the hair from the young man's forehead at the end of the corridor, revealing a pair of somewhat hesitant white eyes. Yes, you, who had spent 13 years in this world, nodded sullenly. He bowed his body slightly, forcing himself into a posture of humility before the elder, an act he still hadn't fully grown accustomed to. However, according to the customs of the Hyuga clan, I shall employ you. Take a look. The elder sitting on the veranda pushed a document forward. You already knew what was written on it. Hyuga clan shinobi lifetime appointment letter. It was a labor contract intended for the mediocre shinobi of the Hyuga clan. Work 6 days with 1 day off, room and board included. If a high-ranking member of the main house was in a good mood, one might even be gifted valuable trinkets from time to time. The total compensation was 30,000 ryo per month, roughly equivalent to 300,000 yen Japan, or approximately 2,100 USD. The job description consisted of nothing more than serving tea, delivering water, and doing odd jobs. Perhaps he would be assigned to prune the plants and flowers within the massive main house estate, trivial tasks for a shinobi. To be honest, this was a lucrative position that outsiders would break their necks competing for. You had no reason to refuse. He was a genin who had lost his teammates in last year's Chunin exams. Having failed to promote in the year 48 exams, which were arguably the easiest session in history, and suffering a crushing defeat even against a dead last like Obito Uchiha, his career as a shinobi was essentially a closed case. Hyuga You had no talent as a shinobi. Continuing as a ninja at the start of year 49 meant the risks far outweighed the rewards. Currently, it was the 3rd year since the outbreak of the Third Shinobi World War. A stalemate had formed with the Hidden Stone, Hidden Leaf, and Hidden Sand locked in fierce combat around the Land of Rain. Under the orders of the Third Mizukage, the Hidden Mist was continuously expanding westward, seizing small nations like the Land of Waves. They were on the verge of a full-scale invasion of the Land of Fire's eastern coast. At this moment, the Leaf's main forces were spread thin across a long, grueling front line spanning the Land of Rivers, Rain, and Grass. To face the Mist's assault, the eastern coastal front was in desperate need of manpower. Unsurprisingly, the Hidden Leaf would soon issue mobilization orders, requiring clan shinobi, led by the Uchiha and Hyuga, to head to the eastern front to repel the enemy. You vaguely remembered that in this war, the Hyuga clan would suffer heavy losses, and the secret of the Byakugan would be leaked. Remaining a shinobi at such a juncture meant he would likely be deployed to that meat grinder of a battlefield very soon. And you was currently just a mere genin. Even with the Hyuga name, he was at best a qualified piece of cannon fodder. Yet, looking at the black and white text before him, a contract that essentially bought out the rest of his life, you hesitated. Hyuga You, did you not hear me? Yes, elder. I am listening. The elder in front of the veranda was silent for a moment before saying flatly, then sign it quickly. Then take this appointment letter and submit it to the main house. Once you return, you can work in peace within the main house. Also, you need to fix that habit of yours, that stiff back that refuses to bend. Your parents saved my life. I will not hold it against you, but if you show such disrespect before the main house, do you wish to taste the caged bird curse again? You suddenly pushed the appointment letter back. After a long silence, he spoke. My apologies, elder. Perhaps I won't sign it. Dissatisfied with the compensation. No. The elder froze for a moment, then knit his brows and stared. Then what do you mean by that? It's nothing. I just feel that I might not be able to bend my back or stay on my knees. Watching you begin to stand up, the elder finally lost the last of his patience. He darkened his face and barked. Do you understand what you are rejecting? Hyuga You, you have absolutely no talent as a shinobi. Even if you did, even if you became a chunin, a jonin, or an elite jonin, your situation would not change in the slightest. As a member of the branch house, For the sake of the clan's continuity, you were born to bow your head to the main house, to kneel to the main house, and to die for the main house, just like your parents did. Yu bit his lip and asked in return, then what about the Hokage? What would happen if I became the Hokage? The elder suddenly laughed out of sheer anger. He looked at the ungrateful Yu as if he were looking at some sort of joke. Then, he slowly raised his hand and formed the ram seal. In the next instant, Yu felt a surge of violent pain erupt from his forehead. It felt as though his skull was being crushed, about to spray red and white matter across the floor. Submerged in this agony, Yu instantly lost all ability to resist. He clutched his head, his whole body trembling as he ground his molars together, blood seeping from the corners of his mouth. Despite this, Yu didn't make a sound. He stood his ground stubbornly like a pillar, looking at the elder. He bared his teeth in a grimace and asked defiantly, his voice wavering, "Elder, if I become the Hokage, what then?" Seeing this, the elder fell silent for a while. He closed his eyes with a sense of lingering weariness, released the seal, and sneered, "You won't become the Hokage. Even if you train until the end of your days, you'll be nothing more than an ordinary genin. You know that better than I do. If you want to die, then go ahead and try." The old man turned his back on the veranda and waved him off, finally leaving one last lonely remark. "Don't say I didn't warn you. That old man Hyuga Sasuke is currently looking for clansmen who know medical ninjutsu." The pain of the caged bird came quickly and left just as fast. The more crucial reason was that this lonely old man, whom Yu had served for 10 years and lived with under the same roof, did not actually want him dead. Yu's face was pale. He swayed for a moment, looking at the back of the elder who had lost interest in the conversation. He remained silent for a while. He knew the man was actually trying to help him, but after enduring such humiliation, being treated like livestock with a leash around his neck, the words of gratitude simply wouldn't come out. Finally, he turned silently and walked toward the exit of the luxurious estate. Like a bird breaking free from a cage, he crossed the corridor, moved through the courtyard, and strode out of the prison he had lived in for 13 years. It was true. Everything the old man said was correct. Having lived in this world for 13 years, Yu understood with agonizing clarity, he had no talent as a shinobi. He had no innate cheat code or system. He certainly didn't have a prominent or noble status. It seemed he was born solely to be a servant to the main house, existing as a sparrow protected by a cage. However, even among sparrows in a cage, there will always be outliers who refuse to spend their lives bowing their heads to peck at grain. And Hyuga Yu was exactly that kind of outlier. Chapter 2. If you wish to become a lion, you must first bow your head as a camel. This was something Hyuga Yu had heard in his previous life. It was said by Nietzsche. He claimed that humanity's most fundamental drives were the will to survive and the will to power. Built upon these, all social discipline, moral predicaments, and the oppression suffered by slaves were nothing but illusions. And if one wished to see through those illusions and break free of those predicaments, then first, one had to become a camel. You had to study, to master all kinds of knowledge, especially knowledge that could help you survive and grow strong. Yet all of this knowledge was wrapped in the trappings of slave morality. It told you how you should, and at that stage, you were nothing more than a pitiful camel, a slave to knowledge. You carried it on your back, unable to use it. Instead, it became your shackles. Hyuga Yu had already been a camel for 13 years. So much time had passed that he was starting to forget what kind of life he had once hoped for when he first opened his eyes in this world 13 years ago. Was it to live as a shinobi, running freely across vast lands? Was it to uphold his own ninja way, to speak his mind and follow through in this hot-blooded manga-like world? Or was it simply because he had grown sick of his past life, of bending his back endlessly just to survive, fawning over one beer-bellied superior after another, exhausted from a life of constant bowing and scraping? Fate, however, played a cruel joke on Hyuga Yu. When he awoke from a drunken, hazy dream, he did indeed arrive in this world full of passion, friendship, and bonds, only to become a member of the Hyuga branch family, the very opposite of hot-blooded. Lion Khan, hey Lion Khan, what are you thinking about? The clear, lively voice snapped Hyuga Yu out of his thoughts. Through his lingering days, he saw a very pretty young girl, around 12 or 13 years old. She wore a neatly tailored gray kimono, with a pristine white maid outfit layered over it. The straps were decorated with petal-like ruffles. At that moment, her fair, delicate hand waved in front of Hyuga Yu's face. Following that motion, his gaze fell upon her features. A straight, elegant nose, softly flushed lips, long lashes that curled upward, and a pair of pale eyes filled with gentle warmth. Oh, it's Natsu, Hyuga Natsu. She was 1 year younger than Hyuga Yu, yet the two of them had been in the same class at the Ninja Academy. Like him, she was a member of the Hyuga branch family. Unlike him, however, her talent was outstanding. Her gentle fist, Byakugan, and 8 trigrams techniques, the Hyuga clan's 3 core arts, had progressed rapidly. Just last year, she advanced to Chunin alongside Obito Uchiha, Might Guy, and others. Soon after, she joined the main family's guard unit as both a protector and a maid, receiving a monthly stipend of 300,000 ryo. Incidentally, she would later become the personal bodyguard of the future Hyuga clan heir, Hanabi Hyuga. Based on the clan's requirements for such a position, Hyuga Yu estimated that by then, this branch family prodigy would be at least a jonin. Looking at this genius girl of the branch family, whose circumstances were utterly different from his own, Hyuga Yu smiled wryly and corrected her. I've told you already, don't keep calling me Lion Khan. My name is spelled Yuu, it means dusk, the sun sinking in the west. He paused, recalling the implication behind what the clan elder had said earlier. His gaze darkened slightly. An ill-omened person, that's not true at all. Hyuga Natsu puffed out her cheeks and shook her head like a rattle drum. She immediately cut him off with a bright smile. Yu-Khan, in my eyes, you've always been very brave. And besides, that nickname suits you perfectly. Back at the Ninja Academy, Yu-Khan was dazzling, just like a lion. Hyuga Yu knew she was referring to the time he trained with Might Guy while wearing that green jumpsuit. The corner of his mouth twitched. Please spare me, Natsu. How did the thing I asked you to do go? Hyuga Natsu nodded. No problem. Young Master Genko is also very curious about you. And when it comes to medical ninjutsu, no one among our peers in the clan is better than you, Hyuga Genko. He was a member of a side branch connected to the main family. His father was Hyuga Sasuke, the elder who had delivered the message, and his cousins were Hiyashi Hyuga and Hisashi Hyuga of the main family. Hyuga Yu had come this time to join young Master Genko's guard unit as a medical nin. After refusing the commission letter from the clan elders, as a registered Konoha shinobi and a clan ninja of the Hyuga Yu would, barring any surprises, soon receive orders transferring him to the reconnaissance division and onto the battlefield of the Third Shinobi World War. Of course, even if you were just cannon fodder, there were still different ways to be thrown into the grinder. At this point, the battlefronts in the directions of the Land of Rivers, the Land of Rain, and the Land of Grass had already descended into utter bloodshed. All sides were fighting so fiercely they might as well have been trying to smash each other's brains out. A disposable genin like Hyuga Yu, once transferred there, would have less than a 10% chance of surviving a month. In contrast, the Hidden Mist Front, where clan shinobi would soon be mobilized, had only just seen the war begin. The overall intensity of the fighting was still relatively low. Moreover, once the crisis of the Byakugan's information leak was overcome, Kirigakure's main force, the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, would collide with Might Guy, who would burn his very life to open the 8 Gates Gate of Death. The mist's offensive would be dealt a devastating blow and slowed even further, dragging on until the war's end. On this battlefield, there were 3 key points Hyuga Yu needed to be mindful of. First, avoid the enemy's targeted hunts against the Hyuga main family. Second, steer clear of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Third, after the Kanabi Bridge incident erupted, make absolutely sure not to get caught up in the plot point where Kakashi Hatake killed Rin Nahara, leading to Obito Uchiha's descent into darkness. Based on cumulative military merit calculated from time survived on the battlefield, once the war ended, Hyuga Yu would be awarded the rank of Chunin. Becoming a Chunin meant he would be qualified to form his own team and accept missions independently, enter the Ninja Academy system as an instructor, or serve in Konoha institutions such as the Interrogation Unit or the Reconnaissance Division. Although he would still, nominally, have to obey orders from the main family, at least with some distance. He wouldn't need to bow and kneel day after day, kowtowing at every turn. How should he put it? Distance makes things beautiful, something like that. And as long as he joined Hyuga Genko's guard unit, he could, through Genko's connections, avoid being sent straight into the frontline reconnaissance division. Instead, he could remain in the rear camps as a medical nin, quietly coasting by. It was a win-win. Hyuga Genko gained a clan medical nin stationed permanently at the rear, and Hyuga Yu gained a chance to survive the chaos of the battlefield. As for everything else, the fate of that main family heir who had drawn the attention of Kirigakure's hunter nin, the fate of Might Duai, who would clash with the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, the fate of his academy classmate Rin Nahara. Obito Uchiha's fall into darkness. Hyuga Yu knew his own strength was pitifully small. He could barely protect his own life, let alone change these major events locked into the main plot. As Hyuga Yu was lost in these thoughts, Hyuga Natsu looked at him with a troubled expression. Once again, his mind had drifted far away, completely ignoring her. She didn't understand why, ever since failing the Chunin exams, Hyuga Yu had been so weighed down by worry. But seeing him like this, she couldn't help clenching her fists. Then, she lifted her fair little face, met his eyes with her gentle Byakugan gaze, gathered her courage, and spoke earnestly. I've also been assigned to young Master Genko's guard unit this time. I'll be going to the battlefield with you, Yu-kan. I'll protect you. Hyuga Yu, snapped out of his reverie by those words, felt as though someone had smashed his forehead with a heavy hammer. He jolted fully awake. His eyes widened as he stared at the girl before him. His throat suddenly went unbearably dry. Wait, Natsu, what did you just say? I said I'll protect you. Chapter 3. By now, Hyuga Yu with Macron had long since abandoned any fantasies of waking up with the Tensigan like some fanfiction protagonist, breaking the shackles of the caged bird curse, launching a coup d'etat, rewriting the Hyuga clan's contradictory laws, marrying a busty tsunade, and ascending to the throne of Hokage. 13 years inside the Hyuga clan had long since shown him the reality that differed from those fantasies. To be honest, apart from the few things about being forced to serve the main house, acting like a beast of burden, kowtowing and genuflecting, giving headlong obeisance, doing 90-degree bows and loudly chanting ridiculous phrases, which grated on him, the clan's material provisions really were without fault. They provided food and lodging, the village's orphan subsidy, the clan's secondary stipend, the elders' private third payment. None of them had ever been late even a single day. After adulthood they allocated housing, and the clan policy even included assigning wives. Besides the insanely expensive ninja scrolls, tools, and the instruction from high-level shinobi, which were naturally hard to obtain, the branch family's lives from cradle to grave were laid out and taken care of down to the smallest detail. That was the real reason the Hyuga's main branch versus branch system had persisted. The clan was genuinely wealthy, and they were willing to spend it. Under those conditions, no matter how much the branch families resented it, that discontent tended to stay confined to individuals and to the currently segregated batch of branch family members. But understanding didn't equal acceptance. Hyuga Yu with Macron did not have the habit of kowtowing to people or performing 90-degree bows while shouting Hontoni Mashawake Gazamazan. Even if he had to follow local customs, he could only accept a few superficial daily etiquettes at most. So even though he knew he lacked natural talent as a shinobi, he still wanted to become a chunin. He wanted to risk his life to stop being dependent on others, to stop kneeling and kowtowing. And yet, right now, standing before the prodigy girl from the branch family and faced with the absolute seriousness of her promise to him, Hyuga Yu suddenly went quiet. Hyuga Natsu was the wife the clan had assigned to him, his fiancée. No matter how he'd planned things, he hadn't expected that Natsu, who would later serve as Hanabi's personal maid, survive Pain's attack, and flee the Fourth Great Ninja War, would at this moment be joining him as part of the escort for the main house young Master Hyuga Genko, and would go with him to the battlefield of the Third Great Ninja War. What's wrong, Yu-kan? You look awful, she said. Nothing. Hyuga Yu drew a deep breath, lifted his head, and smiled with narrowed eyes at the little lolly fiancé before him. Yu-kan sounds so strange coming from you. Just call me Lion, he said. Lion. Hyuga Natsu couldn't help a small snort of laughter. If I call you that, it feels like I'm giggling, Hyuga Yu suddenly said. I will protect you. Natsu froze at that, looked up, her long, curled lashes fluttering, a faint flush rose to her face. What did you say? Let's go, Natsu. Please take me to see young Master Genko. Half an hour later, Hyuga Yu found himself in the reception room of the main house, facing the unlucky young master who would one day have his Byakugan stolen by Kirigakure. The main house young master, Hyuga Genko, appeared very young, around 18, dressed in a white kimono and with the standard Hyuga features, black hair, pale eyes, handsome features. Apart from the smooth forehead without a forehead protector, he looked like an adult version of Niji Hyuga. "You're Hyuga Yu," Genko said, holding a printed resume and making his appraisal of the boy sitting square-backed opposite him. "I've heard of you," he added. "You were a little one-sided in your academy grades," he asked. "Yes," Hyuga Yu nodded. "In academics, you scored full marks in math, chemistry, and physics, and zeros in everything else. For ninja basics, apart from full marks in basic swordsmanship, you barely passed tool throwing, taijutsu, and body replacement technique. The rest you failed outright." Hyuga Genko flipped through the resume and asked, "Why such a skewed profile?" Hyuga Yu answered immediately, "Because I trained taijutsu with the Might Guy father and son, and I also went to Konoha Hospital to learn the basics of medical ninjutsu." Genko frowned slightly, then asked again, "Why train under the Might Guy family for Konoha's strong fist? Isn't the clan's gentle fist stronger than that inferior taijutsu?" Yu did not dare be careless and replied at once, "I've learned both strong fist and gentle fist. Strong fist is simply better at conditioning the body. It can help speed up the process of activating the Byakugan." When Genko heard that his concern was about activating the Byakugan, his expression softened. In school, two types of people were memorable: geniuses at the top of the ranks, and pathetic tailenders. A tailender from one of Konoha's leading clans was even more conspicuous. Genko had heard rumors about Hyuga Yu's lack of natural talent. His chakra reserves were meager, barely qualifying him as an ordinary shinobi, let alone as a Hyuga. Activating the Byakugan requires far greater chakra reserves for Hyuga clan members than it does for ordinary ninjas. Once he realized Yu's strange behavior in the academy was all to open his Byakugan, Hyuga Genko gave him a sidelong look and respected the boy's determination. Before this, including Genko himself, many in the clan hadn't believed Yu could awaken the Byakugan within 3 years of graduation. Yet unexpectedly, at last year's Chunin exams, he truly had opened the Byakugan early and stood all the way to the final ring. Although even Obito Uchiha at the time, another tailender, hadn't won. Genko continued, "So you learned medical ninjutsu during your academy years? What medical techniques can you do?" D-rank chakra recovery technique, chakra needle and thread, C-rank surface suturing, B-rank fine lion extraction, Yu answered. "Not bad." Genko nodded and offered a smile. With that talent, having opened the Byakugan and learned so many medical techniques, Hyuga Yu, you've worked hard. As a reconnaissance ninja you're still lacking, he added, but as a medical ninja you're quite competent, and you just happen to fill a gap our clan lacks. He thought for a moment, then, remembering the message the main house elder had sent, arranged, "I will report this to the main branch. From now on, the clan will cultivate you more toward the medical ninja track. When the village issues deployment orders, I'll arrange for you to be placed in a rear camp to study with the medical ninja stationed there." Hyuga Genko closed the resume and looked at the lower-headed youth before him. "Any objections?" Hyuga Yu suddenly lifted his head, his expression serious. "Yes, HM. I apply to go on missions with the unit, to be part of your escort." Genko's brows tightened. He snapped the resume shut and tossed it on the table with a slap, looking at him coldly. "I said, as a reconnaissance ninja, you are not qualified." Hyuga Yu raised his chin. Beneath heavy bangs his pale eyes shone with stubborn light. He insisted, "I can." Chapter 4 Please leave, Master Genko. I still have. I will make arrangements regarding your affairs. For now, please leave." Hyuga Yu's proposal was mercilessly rejected. This young master of the main house didn't even give him a chance to prove himself before standing up to dismiss him. His attitude was exceptionally firm. Hyuga Yu could understand why he was doing this. Hyuga Genko was entering the battlefield of the Third Great Ninja War to set an example as a member of the main house. His goal was to bridge the rift that had formed between the main and branch houses years ago after Hyuga Hisashi was demoted to the branch house. While there was certainly an element of showmanship involved, whether it was to prevent the Byakugan from falling into enemy hands or to ensure the safety of the few existing main house members, what he needed were reliable branch house guards. Hyuga Yu was merely a genin who couldn't even perform the gentle fist, 8 trigrams 32 palms. Compared to other genin, he had merely learned a few extra medical ninjutsu. In Genko's eyes, Yu was nothing but a burden, not even sturdy enough to serve as a human shield. This was reality. However, only Hyuga Yu knew just how thorny the situation facing this main house young master would be. The Byakugan theft incident was not simple. There were strict confidentiality regulations among ninja. Intelligence regarding a main house member entering the battlefield was classified as top secret within the Hyuga clan. Hyuga Yu knew because a main house elder had indirectly informed him, while Hyuga Natsu knew the details only because she had been assigned to the escort squad herself. Furthermore, it was certain that main house members were safe within Konoha village and at the frontline camps. After all, the main house only needed to show their stance. Naturally, they wouldn't actually execute overly dangerous missions. Once they arrived at the frontline camp, the main house members would be heavily protected. Therefore, the only opportunity for the enemy to strike was during the few days the main house squad spent traveling from Konoha to the allied frontline camp. And this meant, the intelligence that the main house was about to enter the battlefield had, in reality, already been leaked. This was a premeditated hunt targeting the Byakugan. The hunters in the open were the Mist Anbu led by Ao of the Hidden Mist, while the hunters in the shadows were inside the village. Hyuga Yu didn't quite understand why intelligence of this level would leak, nor did he want to guess. But now that the path to directly joining Hyuga Genko's escort squad was blocked. According to confidentiality regulations, as one of the insiders, his departure from the village would likely be staggered from the main house squads, delaying his exit. If he couldn't move with the squad, he couldn't protect Hyuga Natsu up close, nor could he avoid the mist ambush by influencing the squad's route. Even more troublesome was that he wouldn't even know which route the main house squad was taking. At that moment, standing outside the main house mansion, Hyuga Yu stood with a dark expression, thinking for a while. Suddenly, he turned around without hesitation and headed toward the Fire Country Bank branch within Konoha village. The Fire Country Bank was built right next to the Hokage residence. This was convenient for Konoha ninja to walk a few steps and deposit their money after completing missions and earning their remuneration. The 5 great nations of the ninja world each had different currencies. The Land of Fire used a coin with the Fire Daimyo's head on the front and the Konoha village symbol on the back. Additionally, there was a universal currency relying on the banking industry that allowed for circulation. At this time, Hyuga Yu walked straight to a counter. "Hello, I would like a loan." "A loan?" The young female teller behind the counter paused, then reminded him, "It is currently wartime. Our bank is temporarily not accepting unsecured loans for ninja." "Understood." Hyuga Yu nodded. He untied the small, tightly bound bag clenched in his hand and took out documents one by one, handing them over. "This is my property deed, ninja identification, and passbook." "Hyuga Yu, you are a member of the Hyuga clan." "Yes. This is the house left by my parents. The current market value is 1.32 million ryo. I want a loan of 1 million ryo." "One moment." The teller took the materials, buried her head in calculations using the calculator beside her for a while, and soon looked up with a slightly apologetic expression. "Because Iwagakure occupied Kanabi Bridge recently, the safety assessment value for the Fire Country's borders has decreased. According to current market trends, the mortgage rate for commercial residential properties within Konoha village is only 50% to 60%, depending on the location. Since the apartment you provided is located on the edge of the Hyuga clan grounds, our bank can offer you the highest mortgage rate, but we can only approve a loan with a limit of 800,000 ryo." Hearing this, Hyuga Yu couldn't help but fall silent. It was currently Konoha year 49. The situation on the Rain Country front was anxious, and the overall war situation was unfavorable for Konoha. The Kanabi Bridge mentioned by the teller was located in the Land of Grass to the northwest of the Land of Fire. It had previously been a vital supply route for Konoha. Its seizure by the Hidden Stone caused market fluctuations and a drop in investor confidence. This situation would likely persist until next year, when the Kakashi team led by Minato Namikaze destroyed Kanabi Bridge. "Hyuga Yu, do you still want the loan?" The young female teller looked up at Hyuga Yu's tender face, lowered her voice, quietly raised a hand to cover the corner of her mouth. and whispered a reminder. If you don't need the money urgently, you can wait a few years. The market will probably be much better by then. Hyuga Yu shook his head. No need. Please process the paperwork. The teller meant that after the Great Ninja War ended and mission quotas were redistributed among the major ninja villages, ninja who relied on missions for income wouldn't be so tight on cash. But Hyuga Yu wasn't tight on cash right now. He actually had 200,000 ryo in savings. He had another use for this money. Soon, looking at the balance displayed on the passbook, Hyuga Yu took a deep breath, closed the passbook, walked out of the bank, turned, and entered the Hawkage residence next door. He went all the way to the slightly deserted mission assignment desk on the second floor. At this time, due to the outbreak of the Third Great Ninja War, the volume of village missions had dropped sharply, and the originally busy mission assignment desk had become quiet. Inside the office, only a clerk wearing a Chunin flak jacket and thick glasses sat alone behind a desk, yawning. Hyuga Yu walked straight over and spoke. Hello, I want to issue a mission. Hearing the voice, the Chunin clerk looked up. Seeing Hyuga Yu's white eyes, he was somewhat surprised. Issuing a mission at a time like this? Are you a ninja of the Hyuga clan? Correct. What rank of mission do you want to issue? S rank. The clerk's eyes widened slightly. S rank? Are you sure? The minimum remuneration for a mission of that level is 1 million ryo. Hyuga Yu slammed the passbook onto the table, opened it, and showed the number to the other party. The Chunin clerk took the passbook and glanced at it. The expression on his face became visibly attentive. He hurriedly took out a scroll, paper, and pen from the desk and asked impatiently, What is the content of the mission you wish to issue? Hyuga Yu said in a deep voice, I am looking for a ninjutsu. I need the corresponding ninjutsu scroll, or for a ninja who has mastered this ninjutsu to teach it personally. Hearing this, the Chunin clerk felt slightly astonished and couldn't help but look at Hyuga Yu again to confirm. Everyone knew that the Hyuga clan, possessing the Byakugan Kekkei Genkei, had secret techniques and ninjutsu unique to their clan. They basically didn't dabble in other ninjutsu, let alone pay such a huge price to purchase one. However, what was up with this boy? Apologies, may I ask your name? Hyuga Yu. Hearing this, the Chunin clerk couldn't help but look at Hyuga Yu again. Remembering some rumors about this name, his expression became a bit strange. Hyuga Yu, you are that. Ahem. Then what is the ninjutsu you wish to commission a search for? Hyuga Yu took a deep breath and said solemnly, Wind Style, Vacuum Blade. Chapter 5 Wind Style, Vacuum Blade. A B-rank Wind Style ninjutsu. Its effect is to infuse Wind Style chakra into a kunai, forming a sharp sword. Its characteristics are extremely low consumption, very few ninja who have mastered it, and extremely high learning difficulty. Although ninjutsu is not strictly classified by rank regarding consumption, placing more importance on how much chakra the ninja inputs, under conditions of equal input. High-ranking ninjutsu will undoubtedly consume relatively more chakra than low-ranking ninjutsu due to their complexity. But there are exceptions. Wind Style, Vacuum Blade is this type of ninjutsu. Although it is a B-rank ninjutsu, it is classified as such mostly due to the difficulty of learning it. In terms of sheer consumption, it is lower than most C-rank ninjutsu. This is determined by the form of the technique. This technique combines the shape transformation of Wind Style with a strong adhesion effect on ninja tools. The so-called strong adhesion effect is similar to the status Umasero Tobi would demonstrate to Naruto in the future when explaining Wind Style, infusing Wind Style chakra into a chakra blade and throwing it to pierce through a tree. Normally, achieving that effect requires a considerably high level of training in Wind Style nature transformation, and the ninja tool must be made of special chakra metal. This is why, despite the technique not looking particularly flashy and its power not appearing overwhelmingly strong, it is classified as B rank. But for Hyuga Yu, who possessed very little chakra, this was the most suitable ninjutsu. The three great assets of the Hyuga clan, the Byakugan, the Gentle Fist, and the 8 trigrams. Their principles are actually interconnected. They all rely on the Byakugan's ability to see the chakra pathway system and the flow of chakra. Releasing chakra continuously or in large quantities from the Tenketsu to form the nintaijutsu unique to the Hyuga clan, the unreplicable Gentle Fist style. The prerequisite for achieving this is based on the Hyuga clansman having a chakra volume slightly higher than that of an ordinary ninja. However, for Hyuga Yu, Just maintaining the consumption of the Byakugan during battle was already quite difficult. It was impossible to allocate his remaining chakra to the continuous gentle fist N8 trigrams, which required large amounts of chakra. During last year's Chunin exams, it was precisely because he forcibly used the gentle fist art, 8 trigrams 32 palms and crashed halfway through that he suffered a regrettable defeat. However, his 13 years of buried study were not useless. Hyuga Yu had planned his own growth path a long time ago. The scarcity of his chakra determined that he could only follow the route of a concise and efficient ninja. His battles often had to end in an instant or within a very short period. Therefore, he shifted his personal focus to taijutsu, ninja tools, and medical ninjutsu, pairing them with the Byakugan to construct a combat system that belonged solely to him. And now, what was missing to complete the final link of this combat system was precisely this wind-style ninjutsu, vacuum blade. Hyuga Yu did not originally intend to acquire this ninjutsu in this manner. Instead, he had planned to create a slightly weaker C-rank version himself after deepening his training in wind-style nature and shape transformation. Discover more privacy policy templates, TV show guides, cookie consent solutions, terms of service, consultation, website security audits, books, category content. After all, the price of obtaining it was somewhat too heavy, but plans can never keep up with changes. Things having reached this point, in order to protect his fiancée, Hyuga Natsu, and to face the battlefield he was about to step onto, Hyuga Yu had no choice but to take this step ahead of schedule. Yes, wind style is a rare affinity among the ninja population. And within this extremely small group of ninja, as far as Hyuga Yu knew, there was only one person in the entire Hidden Leaf village who had mastered the ninjutsu wind style, vacuum blade, Danzo Shimura. Thinking for a moment and clearing his head, Hyuga Yu walked out of the Hawkage residence after posting his mission. He identified his bearings and then ran non-stop toward the Konoha training grounds. If one were to unfold Konoha like a fan, the Konoha training grounds were located in the fifth ring of this massive semicircle, adjacent to the perimeter walls and forest surrounding the village. The supporting ninja tool shops, blacksmiths, and hardware wholesale markets were all located in this area. It would take some time for the intelligence regarding the S-rank mission Hyuga Yu had posted to ferment and be passed into the hands of various factions. P.S. It does not essentially reach the level of S-rank. Normally it would be listed as an A-rank mission, but since this is a special period, it has been exceptionally listed as S-rank for various reasons. Taking advantage of this time, Hyuga Yu arrived in this area to pick up a secret weapon he had been preparing for a long time. At this time, the streets outside the Konoha training grounds were quite lively, filled everywhere with ninja buying tools or repairing equipment. Hyuga Yu moved through the crowd, lifted the door curtain, and walked into a large ninja tool shop. The young apprentice responsible for running errands and entertaining guests inside the shop immediately perked up upon observing Hyuga Yu's white eyes. He welcomed him eagerly. "Welcome, guest. How may I help you?" Hyuga Yu glanced at the other party. Seeing the boy wearing a sky-pointing ponytail and round-framed glasses, clearly a fresh face he hadn't seen before, he said, "I am here to pick up a custom-made ninja tool." The apprentice immediately trotted to the counter, found the scroll recording custom tool orders, and flipped through several volumes. He couldn't find the surname Hyuga anywhere. He looked up somewhat consistently, his small face blushing as he asked, "Guest, may I ask when you placed the order?" "Not that book. Books and literature." Hyuga Yu shook his head and pointed to a scroll pressed at the very bottom of the counter. "Look there. 8 years ago, a Ninja Academy student named Hyuga Yu ordered a ninja tool at this shop. 8 years ago." Hearing this, the apprentice was stunned. 8 years ago, he hadn't even been born yet. And this Hyuga youth before him was probably only 6 or 7 years old back then, right? What kind of ninja tool takes 8 whole years to forge? And how much effect could a tool forged for a 6 or 7-year-old child 8 years ago still have now? Please wait a moment. Realizing this was a major matter, the apprentice didn't dare to neglect it and hurriedly began to search. Just then, a rough voice came from the backyard blacksmith workshop. "Shasiki, what are you doing dilly-dallying? Where is the ore I asked you to get?" "Yes," the apprentice called. Shasiki looked up immediately upon hearing the voice. "Teacher Io with Macron, I'm coming right now." Too slow, too slow. "Also, haven't you eaten? Give me a bit more spirit." How can such a weak voice forge powerful ninja tools? As the voice rang out, a black-haired old man with a Mediterranean-style balding head poked his head out from behind the curtain of the inner room. Upon seeing Hyuga Yu standing in the shop, Io with Macron blinked. He felt like he had seen this youth somewhere before, but the image didn't seem to match up perfectly. Hey, this young brother looks so familiar. Seeing him, Hyuga Yu immediately smiled faintly and greeted him. Master Io with Macron, it has been a long time. Io with Macron. This man was Konoha's premier ninja tool artisan. 8 years ago, Hyuga Yu had spent 100,000 ryo to commission him to forge a unique ninja tool. Oh, I remember now. You're that kid from the Hyuga family. I watched your matches during the Chunin exams last year. Your ninja tool techniques were brilliant. It's just a pity. Io with Macron finally recognized Hyuga Yu and showed a look of realization. But quickly thinking of something, he hurriedly shut his mouth and revealed an embarrassed expression. Sorry, it's nothing. Hyuga Yu shook his head indifferently. He had only awakened his Byakugan the year before last, and his mastery of medical ninjutsu and gentle fist acupoint striking was only at a beginner level. Chunin aren't as common as cabbage. To be able to advance to the final tournament stage under those circumstances was already considered dumb luck. However, things were different now. Thinking of this, Hyuga Yu looked directly at Io with Macron before him and asked straight away, Master Io with Macron, how is the crafting of that ninja tool I ordered coming along? Looking at the youth in front of him, Io with Macron immediately remembered the special ninja tool commissioned 8 years ago. His spirit rose involuntarily, and he laughed proudly. That tool has been completed. Last year it was still undergoing the final process, so it couldn't be put to use. I am truly sorry about that. Saying so, he beckoned to Hyuga Yu, signaling for him to follow him to the backyard. Follow me, it definitely won't disappoint you.
Oh, man.
Chapter 6. Following Io with Macron, Hyuga Yu quickly passed through the workshop in the backyard used for forging ninja tools and arrived at the showroom where the master kept his collection. As they walked, Io with Macron sighed with emotion. I really didn't expect that in this day and age, there would still be a ninja thinking about using this kind of weapon. To the side, Shiseki tilted his head, a bit confused, but hung excitedly behind Io with Macron and Hyuga Yu. He seemed eager to see what this ninja tool, which had taken 8 years to craft, actually looked like. At this, Hyuga Yu shook his head and said, although it isn't made of precious materials, the manufacturing process is extremely tedious. It has to balance the sturdiness required for close quarters combat with the flexibility needed for use. Thinking about it, in the entire Hidden Leaf, only you, Master Io with Macron, could craft such a tool. After all, it is a weapon eliminated by the times. Haha, only an old stubborn fool like me would be willing to make this kind of toy. I'll accept your praise. Io with Macron let out a loud laugh, took out a key, and opened the door to the showroom, leading Hyuga Yu inside. Inside the rather spacious showroom, a uniquely shaped ninja tool was displayed on the shelves every meter. Ninja swords, iron staffs, cleavers, steel wires, tonfas, chain staffs, iron chains, explosive tags, spiked iron balls, giant chained iron balls, Fuma shuriken, blast spheres. All sorts of common and uncommon ninja tools were displayed there. If opened to the public, it could even serve as a small museum of ninja tools. Soon, the three of them reached the end of the showroom. Io with Macron lifted a massive wooden box, 2.5 meters long, down from the innermost shelf. He opened the wooden box. Inside lay a large Japanese bow, taller than Hyuga Yu himself. The bow was about 2.2 meters long overall, asymmetrical with the upper part long and the lower part short, similar in form to the hama yumi used in countryside rituals. It was made entirely off maruki wood, with white gohi streamers adorning the ends. Several key parts, such as the upper curve nodes, the grip nodes, and the Himazaraya curve nodes, were fitted with modules that could be activated by chakra. If encountered with close quarters combat, matching iron bow plates could be slotted into grooves, allowing it to be used to whip people. Io with Macron took out the bow and proudly showed his apprentice, Shiseki, the 4 characters for crafted by Io with Macron inscribed on the limb. He then looked at Hyuga Yu and explained. This bow has a draw weight of 150 pounds. The effective range is within 150 meters, with a maximum limit of 300 meters. It isn't heavy, but it is very long, making it quite troublesome to carry. Furthermore, it can only use hemp strings. Arrows fired with this kind of draw weight, well, it's very difficult to recover and reuse them. Hyuga nodded and estimated. In other words, it will be scrapped after about 100 to 200 shots. Exactly. Using tanned elastic ninja wire is an alternative, but it affects the handling of the bow. Since you commissioned this specific type of bow, you should understand that, right? Hyuga nodded. The Japanese bow has a specialized shooting technique. The hand holding the bow must master the vibration amplitude of the bow when the arrow is released. Predict the reaction force generated by the difference in length between the upper and lower limbs, and use this reaction force to calculate the arrow's launch direction and the amount of force applied. As long as one can properly utilize this reaction force, the trajectory of the fired arrow can undergo various changes, such as controlling the range or the parabolic arc. Therefore, only specially made hemp strings can be used. In other words, this weapon takes a long time to build, has high maintenance costs, and the bowstring has a short lifespan. Coupled with the fact that the explosive speed of ninjas during combat is comparable to a locomotive. Once a battle starts, the distance between both sides closes rapidly. Bows and arrows quickly lose their effectiveness and can even become a burden. Thus, the bow and arrow became the tears of the era. In the entire history of the ninja world, one could barely find anyone named who used a bow, perhaps only Kidomaru, who was beaten to death by Niji Hyuga. For ordinary ninjas, having the time to practice with such a thankless tool would be better spent practicing the body flicker technique. However, if one adds the Byakugan, which starts with a visual range of 1 kilometer, and the wind style, vacuum blade, which can be attached to ninja tools to increase range and enhance penetration power, then everything changes completely. With this thought in mind, Hyuga took the bow, his heart filling with anticipation. Of course, the path of was just a concept he had calculated based on his knowledge. The actual combat effectiveness still required concrete testing. Moreover, the jutsu wind style, vacuum blade is currently non-existent for him. Although he had decided to make contact with Danzo Shimura, whether Danzo would accept him, a member of the Hyuga branch family, was another matter entirely. Hyuga's current positioning was very awkward. Unlike Might Guy, who tried to join the route for Kakashi's sake but was rejected on the grounds that there is absolutely no darkness in your heart, you belonged to the completely opposite extreme. Although Hyuga was momentarily filled with ambition and had a very spirited desire to live a significant life, he ultimately still bore the caged bird seal on his forehead. In a substantial sense, he was already considered a dog of the Hyuga family. At any time, he could be forced by the main family to leak intelligence. Given Danzo's character, suspicious, cautious, trusting no one, and only daring to use people after branding them with a cursed seal, it was likely very difficult for him to accept you. But then again, people's thoughts differ vastly at different stages of life. Just like how children always want to be adults, but adults always envy the time spent playing in the mud as children. And Danzo Shimura, who was stuck in an even more awkward period than Hyuga right now, might just hold his nose and convince himself? While Hyuga was preparing to step onto the battlefield on one side, the S-rank mission intelligence posted by Hyuga quickly began to ferment on the other, being prioritized for delivery to the Jonin Council, the Anbu, and their subsidiary organizations. Setting aside whether the mission grading was reasonable, simply looking at the content of the mission release, some sharp-minded and well-informed ninjas had already sensed the incongruity of this task. Wind style, vacuum blade. Currently, only 2 people in the entire Hidden Leaf village knew this ninjutsu. One was the third Hokage, Hirozen Sarutobi, known as the Professor of Ninjutsu, who had mastered over 1,000 techniques. The second was the high-ranking official of Konoha, leader of the route, and one of the Hokage's advisors, Danzo Shimura. Between the two, it was obviously Danzo Shimura who was more proficient in this technique. Or rather, this was precisely the secret wind-style ninjutsu of the Shimura clan. Similar ninjutsu existed, of course, such as the Shirakumo clan's hereditary wind style. Vacuum sword, the wind style, shuriken techniques mastered by some small ninja clans, or the Sarutobi clan's wind style, verdant mountain gale, all of which possessed similar effects. But this mission specifically named and required wind style, vacuum blade. What this implied inevitably led some people to indulge in wild fantasies. However, before the intelligence could spread to a wider range, and just as the mission delegation process reached the Hawkage's desk, the few ninjas paying attention to the matter were stunned to discover the mission had been taken down. And very quickly, all documents related to the mission process, recorded files, and even the intelligence regarding the employer Hyuga Yu's appearance at the Hawkage residence were wiped clean. It was as if this mission had never existed. That's it for today, folks.